Hi Lisa, welcome back. Here today to do your reading. I meant to do it yesterday, but I have been very busy with some personal stuff. So sorry, I'm getting to it today. And we're going to try to answer or give you some insight into the situation that you told me about in your email that really kind of colored some of the stuff that we had been talking about in your previous reading, and that really that information that you shared with me was definitely first of all, thank you for sharing all of that with me and for confiding in me enough to come back for a second reading about all of that. But it does put your first question into some different light. But anywho, we're going to see what we get here. So again, I've pulled your significator as the Queen of Swords, and we're going to basically ask about your domestic situation, about your relationship with the men in your life, basically your husband and your son, and what you can be doing in that situation, because that, of course, is a difficult and tricky situation. And yeah, we will just see what comes up. So I'm going to go ahead and start shuffling this, and we'll see what happens here. I am going to be using my Tot deck today, since this is a pretty serious question. I thought we would use a heavy-duty deck. Alright, I'm going to hope I can fit all of this in the screen as much as possible, as always. Okay. All right, Lisa, so this is what we have here. We've got, for your overall situation, you are represented by the Hanged Man. And based on what you were telling me, I think it just feels like you are under other people's thumb too much. And I think that I think that you are, it's the word I want, you are made to be the passive victim, in a sense, with this. And I think you feel like you've had to sacrifice a lot of your own well-being, and your own sense of calm. I think that it feels, with the Two of Discs crossing you as your problem, as your obstacle or your issue here with this situation, I think it seems like you aren't able to get a grip on the changeability of your situation and how unstable it really is. I get the sense that things are not balanced and things are not fair for you. And I think that above all else is something that you really want out of this situation, because your hopes and fears are represented by adjustment. And so you want greater equality. There's a lot of swords and a lot of air going on here, and none of it is particularly bad. But I do think it means that this is something that weighs on your mind quite heavily, and you don't necessarily um, act out on it in any way. Even if you know that it's wrong, you kind of lie down and take it, and you are forced to tolerate things that you don't necessarily agree with. And I think you do this because you do love the people that are affected, obviously. Your child is obviously at any age and under any circumstance something that you're going to love unconditionally as a good mother. But we don't want that to get in the way of doing what we know is still right, and doing what we know is still best and really best for the individual concerned, who I would say is represented by the Knight of Swords in your past as someone who has been kind of aggressive in the past, and kind of, what's the word I want for that? I think that he's gotten better. I do think that the situation has improved to a degree with the Six of Swords and the basis of your situation. I think that right now I think there's just a lot of mental energy going into this, and a lot of, I kind of want to say just a lot of compromise that you have had to make in order to keep the situation stable. I feel like you are trying so hard to subjugate yourself in an attempt to keep the structure, the domestic structure that you have, intact, because you know that he is, well, whether this is your son or your husband, or kind of a conflation of both, it could be both, and the Knight of Swords representing both of their kind of, again, aggression against you. And I think you know how that works, and you know how the two of them operate against you. And I think you kind of just don't want to fight against it anymore in some way. And I see this as carrying into the immediate future of this feeling, as this feeling of not really being empowered. And I think, this goes pretty hand in hand with some of your questions about your business situation as well, which I believe is represented by how you see yourself as the Ace of Wands. You see yourself as having a productive, something that you can really work on and develop. This project that you have, this small business that you have, that you want to grow, that is one of the few sources of real creative positive energy in this reading. I shouldn't say that, because overall the reading isn't negative. Overall, your reading is actually dominated by Venus. And I think a lot of the energy I'm feeling is just very soft and very passive, and it leaves you unequipped to deal with things that are pitted against you, that, again, that you don't necessarily agree with, or don't necessarily want to put up with anymore. You have in some ways become emasculated, or whatever the female equivalent is. You've become pretty powerless in this situation, and I don't see that as improving. Now, I don't know. I don't like the sense that I get from this Ace of Wands Tower business, and we had talked about that in your previous reading. You had the Tower in your previous reading as well, Lisa, and I can't remember where it was off the top of my head. I'm going to pause this actually and figure that out for you. Okay, actually, the Tower was your overall situation in your previous reading that I did for you the other day. And you also had the Ace of Wands in that reading also. So you do have a couple of recurring themes, which clues me into the idea that both of these situations are connected in your life, and that this the domestic situation is, I want to say, going to continue to repeat itself. I think that this tends to go in cycles, and that this tends to come and go and tends to be a recurring problem for you and your family, and that it isn't something that is going away. And I don't know that it will ever go away if we continue the way that we are continuing. And I get the sense that this could potentially jeopardize your own well-being and the goals that you are trying to meet for yourself in terms of productivity. And what? Yeah, we already talked about adjustment a little bit. You want fairness, and yet you are kind of gypping yourself an opportunity to really be a part of that equality. And what it says is missing here. This is a fairly straightforward reading, to be very honest with you, and it says that what the best thing for you to do here is the Lovers. And I think that the Lovers is a card that is very easy to read literally as a partnership or romantic interest, attraction, and yes, it can represent all of those different things. But in this position, I don't get that vibe from the Lovers here. I think that it's saying that you should listen to your heart more, and listen to your intuition more, and listen to what you know intuitively, because that's what the Lovers actually means, is listening to the voice of the oracle, the voice of your intuition, that inner guide, your conscience, and listening to that more, because I think that is a way for you to be pulled out of this very almost laissez-faire attitude about the whole thing. And I know that obviously this is something, it's not that you're totally hands-off. Obviously, I know that this is something that you have been probably frustrated with or frustrated by for a long time. But I think that it's still important for you to keep putting up a fight in a way with this. In your previous reading, I had said to not be confrontational, and I think that is still. I think that's still the case here. I think that advice is still applicable for your situation, but there's a way of being non-confrontational that still gets your point across and still gets your own needs and expectations across. I think The Lovers also has a connotation of communication to it, and in your previous reading we talked a lot about how maybe it's important, now is a good time for your husband and yourself to have a more serious chat about all of this, about your business situation in that case. But in this, maybe you guys need to really figure out where the two of you stand on this and try to come to some sense of equality here, because it isn't fair that you are getting the short end of the stick all the time. And that's what I get here. You've in some ways become the scapegoat, and I don't know that that's a good thing. And I think that you have accidentally allowed yourself to fit this role because you love the people involved and you don't want to hurt them. And while that is noble and a beautiful thing in and of itself, it isn't good for you. And it's never good for us to lie down and die for and give up things that we really believe in, or ever stop defending those things. And I just see you as coming under fire from people in the immediate future, and you just have this feeling of like giving up that's going to hit you soon. Just feeling like you're done with it and there's nothing you can do about it, because there are too many other factors and too many other voices that are going against you. But at the same time, for your well-being, you require much more meeting in the middle. You know what I'm saying? And that's so important for relationships of any kind in general, but particularly in marriage and with families. Meeting in the middle is so important, because meeting in the middle is an expression of respecting each other. And I don't feel that you are being as respected as you could be. And I don't want to see you be in a situation in which you are being put down in any way or being taken advantage of, because you are a caring and, I believe for the most part, gentle person. And being a Libra, Librans are not known for confrontation, and they're known for wanting to keep things pretty impartial and fair and balanced. And I think that natural desire of yours, in your personality, is really speaking to you here in this situation with adjustment. And, yes, adjustment could represent a literal decision that you want to be made, that you just kind of want to make this decision and get it done. And it's a big, important decision, and may even have some legal consequences in this case. But I think more generally and more importantly, I get this sense between that and The Lovers that there's you very much need for this duality to stop constantly flip-flopping. It can't be night and day all the time, because it is getting in the way of your success. And it's getting in the way of you finding stable ground to really grow the things that are becoming important to you. It's destabilizing you. And I think as a defense mechanism, in order to deal with that instability, you are taking the path of least resistance instead of trying to again, I don't want to say the word fight, because I don't want it to sound like you need to go to battle over this. But I want you to stick up for yourself a little bit more and not just take it because it's easy. And as I said, this is such a difficult and, I'm sure, painful situation, because I think it feels like you versus everyone else. And in order to avoid confrontation, and to try to gradually improve the situation, I think that's the other thing too, is that I think you feel that this just needs to be given time, and that if you are supportive and loving and nurturing, then this will sort of just fix itself, which, may be partially true. When people have serious problems like drug addiction, really, as I'm sure you know, the only person who can really help that person is that person themselves. I didn't word that well, but you know what I mean. We can never, unfortunately, as much as we love people in our lives that have problems and baggage, we can never fix that for them. And that is hard and frustrating and sad and disappointing, and it makes you feel like you should be doing more. And it causes you to question how you should be dealing with those people and how you should be still expressing love to that person. But at the end of the day, no matter what you say or do, the only person that can change is them. And, the only person who can bring about that change is them. And you can only be there as support, but at the same time, support and supporting loved ones should never get in the way of your own self-activation. Because you have to remember, you were put on this planet for your own reasons and to do your own thing. And that everyone else that has come to you or come into your life through you is a byproduct of that. As wonderful and as beautiful as that is, all of that must be secondary at the end of the day to your own pursuit of what you believe to be true and good for you. And if this is a situation that you don't feel comfortable with, that is not providing you with a healthy, balanced lifestyle that you deserve as a good human being, then something needs to give, something needs to change, and it shouldn't be from you, because you've already given a lot. You've been already more than generous to both of them, despite the fact that I get the sense that they have almost ganged up on you and kind of attacked you and not really made you feel the love back. And you need to feel the love. If you're not feeling the love, then something's wrong. The problem is, I think that you're giving so much love yourself and getting very little of it back. And that concerns me, because down the road, that means the tower could be not so great. And the tower can represent the collapse of this period of kind of calm that has been established over time by your passivity. And the situation that you may think it to be has the potential here of eventually collapsing under you and, really destabilizing you. I mean, I just, yeah, I don't see good things coming of this if it continues the way that it has been continuing. And of course, the beauty of tarot readings is that we have free will, and you can change these outcomes. You can change whatever situation you're in through the power of choice. And so I would encourage you to really think about what your needs are and how you can assure that those are being met, and if they are not being met, if things are not fair, then maybe it is time to do something more drastic and serious. The answer is not ever going to be yelling at anyone. The answer is never going to be confronting someone. The answer is never going to be getting in an argument. The answer is to continue giving that love that you are so good at giving, but you need to retool it in a way that is actually beneficial for the people involved. And you have to, in the same way that you give love out, you have to give that love back to yourself and value yourself enough to know that you don't deserve to be treated like this. And that if these people really do love you, then they won't treat you like this. They won't take advantage of you, and they won't basically ask you to be pushed aside and, to lay down and die over it, metaphorically. That isn't right. That isn't fair to you, and that isn't what love is about. Love has nothing to do with sacrifice. Love has nothing to do with sacrifice, and I think anyone who actually believes that love has anything to really do with sacrifice in this sense, obviously, selfless sacrifice, a mother saving their child from death, or you think about, these awful school shootings and teachers, blocking children from bullets with their own bodies, these horrifying stories of sacrifice. I mean, that is totally valid sacrificial love. But this is not. This is sacrifice that you are doing, that you are kind of being forced to do, because I think that is what people have gotten used to as the loving dynamic in your family. And I think that it is important for you to do your best to change these things. It's so hard because these people are your family and you love them, and I understand that. But at the end of the day, if they do really love you, they will support you and believe in you and, help you and provide you with the stability that you need right now to do what's best for you and to pursue your passions and your goals, because that is what you're trying to do right now. And I see this as eventually really destabilizing you down the road, because it just, you've got, for your 3 outcome cards, because I drew 2 extra to kind of elaborate on the tower, just to check whether or not it was all gloom and doom. And we did get art and the 5 of discs. And I just get this vibe from those 3 cards that this is, that this whole situation is not good for your financial situation, for your financial foundation, and for your relationship stability. All of this is kind of this constant cycle of back and forth, of positive and negative, of being okay and then being out of control. All of these things are contributing to this slow erosion of the things that you care about. And it's almost cancerous, and I don't think you deserve that. So, I think that it's not, all is not lost, and as I said, the reading, for the most part, really doesn't have bleak, oppressive, horrible energy. It isn't. I have definitely seen readings that are far more bleak or horrible, and this is not. But it does have the potential of spiraling in a direction that is not good for you or anyone else. And I think there are some steps that you can try to take, to make sure that it doesn't, to the best of your ability. And if you take those steps and it still does, you have to be okay with that. And I hate to keep saying this, but at the end of the day, your son is responsible for your son, and your husband is responsible for your husband, and you're responsible for you. And the choices that those two make cannot get in the way of your own ambitions and your own well-being. And that's really, I think, what the overarching message of all of this is. That's what I get. The reading at its heart is about well-being. The bottom card for your deck is the Eight of Discs, and so this is about it is about recovery. On a literal level, it's about recovery. And I know you had mentioned that your son had been going through things like rehab and trying to not use drugs. So that is definitely part of this. But at the same time, this is also about your well-being and your own personal growth and your own personal self-expression. And if this business is really what you want to do and is really becoming the way for you to grow and express yourself as a human being, then go for it. Then that business is more than just a business. It's so easy for us to look at our daily lives and just see them as mundane stuff. But when they become expressions of our creativity, of our reason for being, when they become expressions of our passions, when they become outlets for us to find happiness, especially in situations where there isn't a lot of happiness, there isn't a lot of equal happiness. I think we have to give those aspects of our life more weight and more spiritual gravity, and it behooves us more to believe in them and treat them like causes, and important things that we need to defend and put energy and resources into, and protect from evil, so to speak, to protect from people who don't necessarily believe in them or support them. I think you need to. I want to say you need like more of a psychic barrier for the time being. As these things sort of figure themselves out. I kind of want. I almost want you to liberate yourself from the situation, and instead of just taking it, remove yourself almost entirely. I wish you could do that. I know that probably is not really an option here for you, but I wish that you could just focus on you and what you're doing now, and I wish that you didn't have to worry about all of this other stuff. Again, your advice: follow your heart. Whatever it is that your heart is telling you is right about the situation and what you need to do and what you need to pursue, that is right. And go with that. And trust that connection. Go with that connection. Don't let yourself be swayed by voices that don't know any better and voices that are full of shit. I'll be very honest with you. They're full of shit. And you can't let that keep pinning you down and making you weak and not the best person you can be. So I hope that this all makes sense. This is quite a heavy reading, and I hope it helps. I hope it was accurate and all that, and again, that it helps. So please let me know what you think, and as always, I appreciate your business. Thank you very much for ordering a second reading from me. I'm very glad that you liked the other reading as well. Excuse me, sorry. And that allergies this season awful. and that you found that one helpful, and that you liked it enough to come back to me for a second reading. So I appreciate it very much, and I truly wish you the best in this situation. I wish you the best of luck with all of this, and I hope that things work out for you. I do. And I trust that they will. So have faith, keep faith. It's very important. And I'm praying for you. I got my fingers crossed for you, Lisa. All right? So take care, and I hope you enjoy your weekend as well. Bye-bye.